would you say it takes to be enough?
Well, I think we're all already enough.
There you
It's
go.
recognized.
So thank you so much for joining me, Dr. Kulkarni. A little bonus session here as we just wrapped up finishing chapter 2 of The Legendary Quest, and it was two entitled For Your Title. And really, I just wanted to get your experience and how that relates to your own life.
Yeah, I mean, that really relates very closely to my own story and journey, right? I mean, and I've said this, before on different forums, but, in particular context to this chapter of being too entitled, I started with, whatever 14 plus years of training, like most of the physicians and subspecialists do, with a very predefined notion that I was going to be the clinician researcher and that was the job. And I built up my research program and got my first promotion in 5 years, and it was all going upwards, but yet something seemed missing. Like, I think in retrospect, I experienced burnout in 2017, 18, early part of 19, before things really pivoted and shifted. With the retrospective scope, I was clearly too attached and entitled, with the title of clinician researcher,
Yes.
losing the context of the big picture. I'm still a clinician researcher, and my research program is probably 3 times bigger, but I feel less attached and engaged, and I don't feel those things of being superior to the starters and inferior to the more established people at the international level. And you're going to have to squeeze every paper out of every student. I think I look at it very differently. I look at it from the creativity angle, from improving care angle, improving patient outcomes angle. How can we add contribution and meaning and a positive impact to the world type of angle? And how can we enhance, or how can I enhance my own experience and other people's experience? How can I help them become better researchers? It's not about making a longer CV anymore. It's making those meaningful choices. I let go of projects because that's probably just not a good fit for me, or somebody else is better equipped to lead it. So I think it's that huge change in perspective, right? And then I discovered some of those parts which were becoming very dormant, like the art enthusiast in me and the music enthusiast in me, like actually just this
Always
year.
such a
Yeah, I know, that's, yeah,
well,
that
okay.
painting is still
This
sitting
is
there in the corner.
amazing. Yes, amazing. And you know what is
Yeah,
so apparent too? It's like what I hear and what I see, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it's like all these external, it feels like, we're getting told to do all these things all over the place. And for people that don't know
yeah,
what I do, I am a full time researcher right now. I feel that external pressure of this many, like numbers of papers, this, and as I'm
yeah.
an editor or a reviewer for some articles, I'm just thinking, I'm looking at the landscape and I'm like, that external pressure is reducing the quality of output. So if we just
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
right. So what I'm hearing is like you were able to just pause and say what's true to me, and it really feels
Yeah,
like now you're actually like producing more authentic work and
yeah.
more in alignment with yourself. And what I realized,
I was now, able to rekindle more of my interest. And, like, I used to perform on stage with music. So, 6 months ago, somebody reached out to me, and now we are taking that up again. And, we're writing our second book. And, I always want to try entrepreneurship and leadership. So that's getting busier and busier. Of course, we failed at multiple startups, but that bothers me much less than it would have otherwise. Like, I
yeah,
mean, that's part of the learning process. You always learn something. And another very key aspect is meaningful connections, right? I mean so often I see academicians or even entrepreneurs, I mean, they have the $100 million real estate portfolio. They want more because they just want more.
yeah,
Like, why do they want $120 million worth of portfolio when they have 100? Like, how is that going to make a difference to their lifestyles? And they can't answer the question to me. I know multiple people with that kind of net worth. And so many academicians, they got 150 papers. Well, they're still trying to publish more. So why are you publishing more? Can't give an answer, right? I think there's some
yeah,
sort of a lack of alignment in, I'm not trying to point fingers. I'm just saying that it's such a common phenomenon that, a
yeah.
lot of us may be very successful or perceived successful, but we either don't feel like that, or we are too attached to a particular role and we're just not in alignment, right? And I think it's like smokers, right? If you're a smoker, other people can tell from a 10-foot distance, right? And the smoker thinks everything is great, nobody knows, and it's perfect. So I think you always radiate that persona or the feeling, and the more authentic you are, it's like the fruit laden tree is very humble and beautiful. In fact, on the flip side, the most successful and have it all kind of people I came across very fortunately are these beautiful personas, right? We all know them, right? I mean, they're laughing and they acknowledge their struggles and they are in full alignment and they are very friendly and they'll share their knowledge and they're willing to learn. They're always very similar interesting characteristics they share, right? I mean, certainly they're all different in many different ways, but they share that radiant joy that, it's sort of a happy journey instead of just life happens to me kind of story, right? They don't
Yes.
necessarily believe in the good and bad. They see the full spectrum of human condition, right? They're not helping others because they want something, they're helping because they feel that's their role, that's their job. There's that mentorship role and there's that contribution piece to them. So I think it's growing into those authentic shoes is such a big part of recognizing this first step of being stuck to your title, I think. So that maybe sheds a little bit more light on how that
Yeah.
relates to me.
Like when you were realizing like, this isn't working, what did it look
Yeah.
like as you started to navigate towards your authentic self?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And in the moment I did not recognize it, but it was definitely the exhaustion and not a little bit less engagement than usual, irritability and really being lost. And you're working the 16-hour days and still feeling damn, doesn't seem to get anywhere. And I think you said it before, right? And in the previous episode we talked about it. Often maybe people mean really well, but our friends, family, society, community may not necessarily help with that. I mean, like too often I get told, wow, you're just overproductive. And I said, well, no, what makes you think that? I mean, there's people managing 10 multi-billion-dollar companies together. They don't feel they're overproductive. I mean, why
Maybe
would I
they
be?
do.
So the idea is that they think, oh well, are you not doing your day job well, or maybe you don't have a family, or maybe what are you not telling me? Like the approach is to quickly judge, saying, okay, well, that guy is productive, so he or she or whoever, they must be missing something or not telling me something. So I think we also have that societal disconnect that we cannot seem to easily accept that certain people or a lot of people or everybody for that matter can do everything and be very successful at having it all and doing it all, right? I mean, we have so many examples around us of people. You know them, I know them, we all know them. They are so authentically successful and doing bigger and better things every day. And it's a huge shift in mindset.
I'm navigating the depths of that despair of feeling not enough all the time, especially like that didn't just go away because I've now leaned
Yeah,
into my
no,
authentic self. It's like, so I say that because if we're looking at people and we're assuming that they're happy, like the assumptions, just that comparisonitis thing, it's like, all right, well, that gets complicated because just like celebrities, we don't know the depth of what they're actually
no,
going through and
no.
navigating. Like, I think that comparison issue, especially with productivity, I like in the grand scheme of life, a lot of societies that don't have that productivity pressure. Like, if you watch
Yeah,
documentaries, your book even talks about this in the beginning,
yeah,
chapter 1. It's what is happiness, like what's at the core is true, authentic connections, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Connections. And
Yeah,
that's what we see in cultures that aren't fresh, pressured.
yeah, the warm cultures. Yeah,
Yeah. So I really value the opportunity just to say, like, people, if we pause and how do we find our true self and kind of disconnect from what we see when we're swimming in it, right? When that is our
yeah, and I think yeah, I mean, you said a huge point there, right? I mean, not enough is a big topic. I dealt with that for years too, and still, obviously, it comes up, every now and then when things are maybe not going as well as I think or not in alignment. I mean, but our entire, capitalistic economy, the media and social media even and movies and everything. A lot of it is based on not being enough, right? Because you will
yeah,
be enough when you
yes,
have the car, you have the right nose, you have the right eyelashes, you have the right face, the skin color, the hair length, or whatever it is. You'll be a doctor when you'll be a lawyer, when you'll be world famous, or then you'll be the multimillionaire, and that's when you'll be enough. And then the goalpost keeps moving as it goes, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so many multimillionaires feel they are broke. I mean, just today I saw this is very topical, right? Just today I saw about an 81-year-old gentleman. He was the modern version of Ebenezer Scrooge. He's like Uncle Scrooge. I mean, this 81-year-old has like millions of dollars of property, and what he does is basically buys a property, seals them up, and stores junk in them now, because he has nothing better to do with his money and his time. So now the government is going after him, and they're dismantling the properties and kind of clearing up the junk. But why? Like, somebody needs to ask the question, why does that person do that when he has enough wealth that most people would envy him? I mean, a lot of people want to be at that level of financial success, but is that going to make them happy? Or a lot of people want to be well-published researcher with 150 papers. Well, is that going to make them happy? So it's that not being enough is at a huge crux of this matter, right? I mean, we are constantly bombarded messages to not feel enough, that you're not enough because XYZ.
For financial, we'll just put this out there, right? We'll overtly say, and I was thinking about the same thing for control, power. Like, I think often people focus on those things, like if they don't want to focus on the true reality that we're human beings that are going to die. Like, that's my whole thing. I'm like, I have existential crises all the time, because I'm like, is no one paying attention to the fact that we have to like develop these authentic connections, and like the whole purpose, like what is the point of all this power struggle and this grand chase of finances when we're all going to die? And ask that question. And in your book you have a quote by Jim Carrey that really focuses on, I just wish everyone was famous and really wealthy. And then also something that I was offered when I was navigating whether or not to leave oral surgery was by a psychologist. I can't tell you who the most famous oral surgeon is. I'm like, neither could I was holding on to that identity because I thought that was going to give me that what I needed in order to feel like I was something. So for the audience,
absolutely.
Can we just tell them, what does it take to be enough? What would you say it takes to be enough?
Well, I think we're all already enough.
There you go. You are enough. You are exactly enough. Anything that you do like that, you are enough. And I think it's just, I love that you said that right away. You're like, it wasn't meant to be a trap, but it was meant to just highlight, like, what will it take to be enough? But yet it's coming from two people who just expressly struggle with feeling enough, because we live in a place that capitalizes on that inherent feeling of, am I enough yet? And they feed off that by giving us these messages. No, you're not, and you need to buy this. Well, just like, look at it. What's the ulterior motive there? And just like diet culture, I lost my life into it, and I would buy everything that would help me be smaller. And then I was like, oh wait, now I'm just angry at it, and I no longer pay attention, because you're able to just name what they're doing and that manipulation in order to make you unhealthy and feel worthless. So we just let people know you are enough. We're glad you're here. Dr. Kulkarni, I'm so glad that we have connected and that you're sharing your gifts and the legendary quest with Dr. Yu. I really think it's added tremendous value to my life. The connection with you, back to chapter 1, has been one of the most meaningful experiences I've ever had. And I hope that people that join us on the community feel the same thing.
Yeah, thank you. I share the exact same feelings. This is a great journey, and we're learning by the day, by the minute, and it's recognizing those psychological traps, and really acknowledging that as humans, we are complete and enough. And then, the rest is just history. You can write 500 papers or make $1 billion. That's all okay. But we're not saying that's not good, go for it, but if we just associate with that as an ultimate goal and outcome, we are set up for failure, is all we're saying.
That's all we're saying, and you're enough. All right, we'll make sure that we have all of your links down below. This obviously won't be our last chat. We're going to be continuing with the topics that are discussed in the Legendary Quest. And of course, I invite everyone to please smash the subscribe button if you haven't already. Drop your questions, comments below, or reach out to Dr. Yu and Dr. Kulkarni specifically about what they can contribute to your journey and to get their book, The Legendary Quest. And until next time, thank you so much for joining us.
Bye bye.